Hi, I'm Firestar. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force, and I was a aircraft electrical environmental systems specialist, and I worked on the F-15s and the KC-135s. So the reality of joining the Air Force and going into maintenance is that when you, for example, play video games or you see movies, the only thing you ever see is when they're in action. You see them when they're taking off, you see the pilots getting to be badasses in the sky and all that. What you don't see is the hundreds of hours a week, the many people that it takes to keep aircraft in the sky, to keep them running. And it's because it's not a glamorous job. You know, a lot of times it's a lot of hard work. You get covered in jet fuel, grease. It's a very to-the-wall job. It didn't necessarily take me by surprise, but it also was one of those eye-opening moments of just realizing how much work goes in to just a simple 2-hour flight for one of these aircraft. The reason why so many work hours are spent on them is because when you have to troubleshoot a component, we'd have to figure out what component actually was going bad in that system. Then once we figured out what component that was for sure, sometimes that component could be so deep inside of the body of the jet that it would take several hours to almost could be days to take out all of the stuff required to get to that bad component. There are some components in particular that if we ever found out that we had to change that component, we for sure knew that not only would we be going on 12-hour shifts, but that was going to be a week-long job, because it would take so long to take out all the additional things that you have to take out to get to that one component. The best part of my job was always after you fix something and maybe you just spent 4 12-hour shifts, non-stop people working on it, watching it taxi and rocket off into the blue yonder. Just knowing that not alone, I definitely had a huge team behind me, but when I was the one that, called that out specifically and we got the jet in the air because of that, that is something that I will treasure for the rest of my life. Our jets did not just stay in one place. I mean, they were very mobile. At any time they could say, we need you to go here, we need you to go here. And it was not as simple as just packing up and the pilot and the jet fly away. You pretty much were taking half of your toolboxes, half of all your equipment. I mean, you were moving pretty much what was almost a small army to just have these jets setting somewhere else in the world. It was nothing short of a small feat. So one story that everybody really likes to talk about with the F-15 is there was one time when the wing came off and the pilot did not know that they had lost a wing. Like, they just were flying like normal. The only thing that they noticed was that when they were coming back was that they had to give it significantly more power to stay stable while they were coming in for a landing. And then when they did land, everybody came over and was like, how did you do that? And then they both turned and literally the right wing of the jet was just completely gone. And that it was still able to land like that just because of the sheer power of the engines and the other wing. There's a lot of stories about the F-15 that if you were to sit and read them, half the time you would think that they were just like fiction. But most of them are just shockingly true. This jet has got quite the history behind it, and I encourage anyone that's into aviation to just look into some of the stories. I've always been one that's fascinated by like circuit boards, electrical systems, and just kind of how all that works. I've always said that my brain works like a map. I always can set and see things like point A to B. And as a kid, I would sit and tear apart like any little like electrical thing I could find, and I would, try to mess with it and stuff. So I guess as you could say, as I grew up, I got to do that on a big scale. I don't know how many people have played it. I know a lot did, but the game series Ace Combat, I got hooked on that as a child playing that on the PlayStation 2. And that absolutely led me to when I was starting to kind of think about my future after high school. It kind of pushed me to be like, well, I want to try to work on those things. And so when I went into a recruiter's office, I pretty much said, like, you know, hey, I want a job where I get to work on jets. And how I ended up with the electrical environmental job. In closing, what I would say is if you are someone who is considering potentially a career with aviation, with potentially maybe you are going the military route like I did, the thing to remember with aircraft is it is a very hard-working environment, but it is a large reward environment. And so always keep that in mind with no matter what you do. If it is working on amazing aircraft like this, or if you just work a desk job, there's always something that you are the moving piece of and doing something in a larger scale. All the hard work that I put into it and all of the long hours, long days, long nights that went into it, knowing that if I looked up into the sky and I saw a jet fly by, that's something that I helped put there. Pretty much all of my socials, you might see me as Firestar396. My main socials that I put out there is I like to make music videos on TikTok and like cinematic videos, and my TikTok is at Firestar396.